That's it. New Zealand have won.
The Champions Trophy has been a mainstay in ODI cricket since its inception in 1998. It cemented legacies and launched prospects into global cricketing superstars.
He goes again. Consecutive sixes. Back-to-back hundreds here for Shane Watson. Australia win.
It's like a mini World Cup, that every game there's something riding on. As a player, that's what you want to be playing in, and that's why it's such an incredible tournament to be able to play in.
The tournament is short and sharp, approximately 2 weeks of non-stop action, pitting the best against one another.
In the air, caught brilliantly.
It's the best against the best, and it's produced some great games.
That's gone up India. Surprise takes the count, it's all over. Pakistan win. India blown away in the final.
The 2025 event, hosted by Pakistan, is the 9th edition of this prestigious tournament.
I always absolutely loved playing the Champions Trophy, but also watching it. It's like a mini World Cup, that every game there's something riding on it. You can't really falter in any game.
Players enjoyed it. I played in one in Kenya right at the start of my captaincy career. We didn't do particularly well, but that was probably my captaincy career. But players, especially now with so much cricket on, they like short, sharp, quick tournaments. They like to get in, get the cricket, get it done, and see a winner at the end of it.
Top 8 teams, good teams. It is the best of the best, as we call it. Every game is a pressure game. You don't have a chance, you don't have a time to take a break.
Difficult to make the tournament. I think sides around the world are looking at their rankings, especially those ranked that 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mark, and they're saying that, you know, it's a chance for best on best.
I like the idea initially of it. The first one was taken to Bangladesh, the second one was taken to Kenya, and it was like an opportunity to kind of maybe expose countries that hadn't seen that much international cricket to some international stars and to a tournament of that stature.
This tournament is one that all players look forward to, simply because after the World Cup, this is the next in line in terms purely of hierarchy, and they really want to do well in Champions Trophy. You remember a lot of the Champions Trophy knocks. Some of the best memories have come in because certain players have stood up. For example, Ricky Ponting.
He's played the pull shot, and has he got a boundary? Yes, he has, to get to 12,000 one-day international runs. Only the third player in the history of the game to do it.
And he almost single-handedly did everything possible required in 2009, 2006. So it's that kind of a tournament that gets the best out of the best players.
Any ICC event where you can have a chance to be able to win the tournament, it's high priority for sure. I was very fortunate to play in the 2002 Champions Trophy, which Australia got knocked out really against Sri Lanka. They outspun us at Premadasa Stadium. But just the beauty of the tournament is everything's riding on every single game.
I like the fact that it's difficult, creates that real competitive vibe.
The first Champions Trophy was organised in Bangladesh in June 1998. The best 8 sides in the world competing in what was then called the ICC Knockout Trophy. The tournament was notable for South Africa winning a global ICC event.
Prior to the 98 tournament, you'd had World Cups, obviously, and I'd been involved in the 96 World Cup in the subcontinent, just missed out on the 92 World Cup. So to have another event on the calendar that was in between those 4-year World Cups, I think was really exciting, because you don't often get to test yourselves in that type of environment. You know, we're talking about it at the time and saying how good it would be, whether it's, whichever group you're involved in, the opposition were always going to be very tough.
We had actually come off we'd played in the Commonwealth Games, we'd managed to achieve a gold medal there. We beat Australia in the final, and that was the next tournament. I think it was just a few weeks later that the team jetted off to Bangladesh. And also it was with some unique personnel from a South African perspective, names that you might not be really that familiar with people, someone like a Mark Rindle. I think Steve Elwey was there, Dale Benkenstein played in it. I think if you actually look at the bowling attack that won the final in 1998, I think Jacques came on like 4th, 5th change. He picked up 5 wickets. He had a great tournament. He also got 100 in the semi. But it wasn't your stock standard South African bowling lineup. You kind of used different options. It was more of out of the box kind of thinking. And I think the nature of the fact that all the games had taken place on the stadium in Bangladesh and the surfaces had been used for many encounters meant that the spinners really came into play. I think South Africa picked 3 spinners. I think it was Boyer, Crooks and Simcox who all played in that final. So it was kind of a unique way of South Africa winning as well. Different thinking and different game plans. I can remember some of the stories, obviously you get back into the dressing room with all the individuals and they tell you about the ongoings and the team talks and the stories that have transpired from the victory and the celebration. It was good. It was good for team morale. We felt like as a South African unit we were on the up. And that victory just played its part in building some extra confidence.
I remember I played for one of the clubs in Dhaka in 1994-95 for Abhani. And when I used to drive around or go somewhere toward the city by road or just outside Dhaka, most of the youngsters used to play soccer. And after that Champions Trophy of 98, and of course Bangladesh's success in cricket, I've noticed that every youngster was playing cricket on the fields, in the fields and of course on the road. So now there's cricket everywhere in Bangladesh. So that's how much bigger impact Champions Trophy did in Bangladesh.
2 years later, the next event was held in Kenya. The first time that Kenya had hosted a major ICC event. India and New Zealand were the form sides in this event, and it was these two sides who went up against each other in the final. Sourav Ganguly's golden run in the tournament continued, scoring a brilliant century. New Zealand's innings got off to a shaky start, but a 122-run partnership between Chris Cairns and Chris Harris helped them to win their first ever ICC event.
The one in Kenya I was quite fond of, and the reason why is before the tournament happened, everyone was bussed. We got into their team buses and we were bussed into the local game reserve. And everyone sort of waited around and they set us up for a nice photo. I actually saw it when I was cleaning out one of my cupboards the other day that they gave it to us with all the teams were sitting in the middle of a game reserve to have a picture because it was Champions Trophy on safari. So I think that was a memory that will probably stick with me.
That's a big one, a huge 6.
I don't know whether we went into that tournament with New Zealand's chances thinking they could win it, but I know we had a very, very good side. A lot of all-rounders, Roger Toos, Nathan Astle, Craig McMillan, Chris Harris, Chris Cairns, all could bat and bowl from sort of batting at number 4 through to number 7, number 8, and they could all bowl overs. So then you have a couple of genuine bowling options and a couple of genuine batting options as well. And so it was a very good side leading into that tournament.
Staging the event in Kenya, the ICC was forging new ground by taking the international tournament to new shores. But it was a quartet of regular big hitters who battled into the semi-finals, with Pakistan taking on New Zealand and India facing South Africa.
Both the semi-final and then the final, we were undone by quality left-handers. Anwar in the semi-final, Sourav Ganguly, brilliant left-hander from India, in the final got 100.
He's taken the aerial route in style.
Out of the ground.
That's a glorious straight hit for 6. And Ganguly once again. Another 100 for Sourav Ganguly. Consecutive hundreds for him.
At the time, when you think in 2000, 260 odd was a very imposing target. Look back at that Indian bowling lineup, they had some quality bowlers, got New Zealand under pressure relatively early. And then the Chris's, Chris squared, Chris Cairns, Chris Harris coming to the rescue.
That's got away, he's found the gap.
Yes, he needed to do that. That's a beauty. That is a beauty. And that'll be 4 more.
Oh, another good Yorker, but he's hit it well, hasn't he? There you are. Big over again.
That is gone. Out off the ground. That's it. What a century. Well played, Chris Cairns.
Chris Cairns played brilliantly. I mean, he was a fantastic all-rounder, and on his day, he could be very destructive, and he proved to be exactly that at the time when they needed him.
The big guys stand up on the big stage, and Chris Cairns was an imposing figure, probably one of the best all-rounders, if not the best all-rounder in world cricket through a lot of those years. And the gutsy Cantabrian and Chris Harris, they put a partnership together that sort of saw New Zealand all but across the line, and Chris Cairns' 100 was probably, I won't say as good as he's ever batted, but it was right up there, and I think he would say that it's one of his most memorable innings. To beat Pakistan in a semi and then India in a final of a world tournament, I don't know that it gets any better than that. I think the celebrations back in New Zealand were quite muted, quite surprised. I don't think many thought we could go through Pakistan and India and win a tournament.
New Zealand was probably, as I went through my career, was probably always, if we didn't win it, we'd probably, if you wanted one other team to win it, would probably be New Zealand, because we always got on well with them. They really punched above their weight. You know, they used all their resources as best they possibly can.
Full toss, they've done it. New Zealand are there. Is New Zealand win this ICC knockout trophy?
We were pretty chuffed for them.
In 2002, the tournament moved to Sri Lanka. It was this year that the event was also rebranded, changing its name from the ICC Knockout Trophy to the ICC Champions Trophy. The 2002 final was between host Sri Lanka and India. Heavy rain across the day of the final and also the reserve day meant that it was a washout. The trophy was shared between the two sides.
2002 was probably the tournament for me which I competed in that I felt we had the best chance. You know, once again we had managed to win our initial game. We got ourselves into the semi-final, and I think India posted about 250 odd. And we were going really well. We were in our chase. We were about 190 for one. And the real blow for us was Herschel Gibbs. He started to suffer from cramp. And I think he had 100 already at the time, and 100 and a run a ball. And with about 15 overs to go, we basically needed 60 odd runs. And Herschel was really going strong. And unfortunately, he had to come off. His cramp was so bad, there was like a 2 or 3 over period where he was unable to grip the bat properly and run between the wickets.
Probably the thumb, the forearm, that's what starts to cramp up. And, well, look, it may be just impossible for him to go on now, so that could be it. And it should be a retired hurt.
And eventually we retired him and into the ice bath to try and get him back and ready to go out. And then, you know, India kind of just grabbed the control of the game.
That's gone in the air, and what a catch! Brilliantly taken by Yuvraj Singh. That is really a stunner. That's gone in the air, and another South African wicket down, and Harbhajan Singh has done the job for them.
South Africa find themselves just teetering on the edge.
That's up in the air. Another wicket goes down. This match is still not over.
I think we struck one boundary between the 37th over and about the 47th over.
81 balls before the last boundary was hit. That smashed away.
And then eventually the next boundary came in the last over of the innings. So it was really disappointing. Jacques batted through that period.
Could this be it? India closer to a place in the finals.
He actually got out in the last over, and we were only 3 or 4 down.
That's well bowled. Well, a huge shout from the Indians because they feel they won this match from the jaws of defeat.
It was a disappointing encounter for us. The final was rained out, so it ended up with joint winners. So if we just won that game, we'd have gone into the final and you'd have been announced as a joint winner. So it was a bitter pill to swallow because we had played some good cricket. The guys were starting to find how they fitted into the team unit. Obviously, being captain, you kind of take it a little bit more personally than you do just as a player. Because, as I say, after 35 overs of that semi-final, it was like, okay, we've got this covered. We're heading for the final frontier, but not to be.
That's up in the air. Man coming underneath it. It's taken. Mohammad Kaif takes the catch. India into the final of the Champions Trophy.